Tom, it's been a while. We were on a roll there for a while, but then we took a little hiatus, but we are back.
We're back.
Yeah. And just in
Good to
time
see
for
you.
us to, yeah, you too, to talk about, we were very fortunate enough to be able to go out to the CrossFit Games and put up a booth at the owners and coaches conference, and be around all of our people. And then obviously we got to watch the games, which was something phenomenally kind of once in a lifetime. I mean, you've never done it, so I know it was
Yeah.
really, really big and impactful for you for sure.
Yeah, no, it was so cool being there. I've been telling everyone it was like a pinch me type experience. It was very surreal to be, right there at the finish line where we were. We were right at like what was it? Like 4 rows up from the
Hmm.
finish line. So we got to see, like the games athletes were like right there in arm's length and being I'm such a fan of the sport of CrossFit too. So uh yeah, it was just like, it was just like a little felt like such a fanboy, seeing all the elite athletes in person. And yeah, it was yeah, one of those like mind-blowing experiences. Like you could watch it at home, but being there and like being able to like contribute, to uh, to their event, like
Yeah.
you are yelling at them like in the moment, like they can hear you, Well, I'm pretty loud, so they probably could hear me, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure they could. I thought it was amazing because the guy that you wanted to win is the one that actually won.
Yeah.
And because that men's race is so tight, like it literally anybody's games. Whereas like with the women, we all know Tia's going to win and it's more
Yeah.
like who's going to take second or third. But for the
Right.
men's, and I think I saw something the other day, 4 years in a row now, it's been a different men's leader. Can we see it? Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's the shirt I won many years ago at a local CrossFit event, and it has Tia's signature on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it. Got it. Yeah. I see
CrossFit
the
Gladstone.
CF. Uh-huh. And that's her signature right to the left of the circle.
Yep. Yep. That's
Nice.
her. And of course I had
And
gotten her book, and it has like the autograph on the inside of it. I was reading from it. But yeah, I mean she's a phenomenal athlete. I don't know, and I think you know this, like there was no I'm quitting or retiring. I didn't
no,
hear that out of her whatsoever.
no. She, you know, s- told everyone she just loves competing so much. She just doesn't see herself retiring anytime soon. She, like we were talking about it, she just loves the process. She just loves training and, just it's not something she can hang up. She had that kind of like a false retirement, um, which was it was something that I don't think she wanted anyone to say. I guess she talked to the announcer, in confidence, like, yeah, I think this might be my last year. And then he's announcing that particular game saying, like, for the last time, Tia to me. And she doesn't know what he's saying, right? Because he's like in a booth, announcing on the live broadcast. Um, or maybe she could hear him on the floor. I don't know. But I think the two are separate. They have like the MC on the floor and then they have like
Mm.
the broadcaster MC. Anyways, uh, so there was all this controversy and she just doesn't want to retire. She just loves it so much. And which is kind of cool. Like I don't really like the like maybe, like and wondering if she's gonna come back or not. I like the attitude of like, no, I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like genuine, like she just really loves training. She's just been an athlete her whole life. So yeah,
Well,
stoked
and
that.
she's great for CrossFit.
Yeah.
She lives it, she breathes it. She's a huge supporter of it. Obviously, she's a tremendous role model for women, especially in the
Mhm.
sport. I feel bad for the other women competitors because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who the heck could step up and actually beat her at that game. I mean, we saw her
Right.
lose one event. And that was it.
Yeah.
And it was because she had her shoes were slippery. But other than
Yeah.
that, like she has no flaw in her game, which is what's needed to be, a CrossFit athlete. You got to be good at everything. You can't be overly good at just one thing. And so, um, you and it was interesting because as you and I were watching, we were just watching like her body type is just very specific, whereas a lot of the other CrossFit women are very bulky, they're big, they got a lot of muscle, but it almost feels like the prototype body type, at least if someone's going to beat her, has to be more of like the leaner, um, yeah, I guess just leaner. That's all I can come up with because I can't figure out why anybody else can't be as good as her.
More compact. Yeah,
Yeah.
people theorize about it all the time. And I think it's just the track and field and swimming background that people have
Hmm.
kind of landed on as being possibly why she has the edge, just being early on and competitive in those two sports with endurance sports like that. She just, and then she just adapted very well to CrossFit. But yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, she has a different look than a lot of the other athletes on the field. She's just built perfect for the sport. And, that coupled with, that background possibly is just, or the recipe for success. I mean, she had that some competition from that young girl Mal O'Brien, um, but unfortunately, she kind of pulled out of the competitive sport of CrossFit, and for seemed like for like emotional reasons or mental health reasons or something like that. Um, and it's been kind of like, is she going to come back because she was the next best thing?
Yeah.
But for Tia having that background, that just in that competitive mindset and just loving the process
Yeah.
is just yeah, just really gets her the win every
Yeah.
time. Yeah, and it's so funny when she gets like fourth place, everyone's like, oh crap, like she messed up, but it's fourth place still, it's like an amazing finish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She still, that's like very high points, on the leaderboard to have that. And then to have like first or second on some other events, like she ends up being like 200 points above everyone else because no one has that consistency, no one has that many good events, right? And yeah, she has no holes in her game.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, I think you hit on a really important point that I believe why it's difficult for a lot of women is that body dysmorphia, like I'm strong, but I look masculine, or I like how I feel, but I don't love the way I look. And I think that, especially for a lot of the younger women, I think that's probably a big struggle that they go through emotionally
Yeah.
is just, what they perceive in appearance as opposed to just
Hmm.
caring about the performance. And I'm guilty of this myself. So I can only imagine how it is for them. You got to be really like top in your sport to maybe overcome that emotional insecurity on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been well, Haley Adams in particular has talked about that. And just the amount of food they need to eat, is like it's pretty wild the amount of calories and carbs that you need to consume to be competitive and to allow your body to recover, and
Yeah.
so yeah, there was, Haley took a year off and then or maybe 2 years off, I can't remember, but and there's been a couple of documentaries about her, and one of them, she was pretty open about how yeah, she was, really wrapped up in the way she looked, and wasn't fueling her body correctly. She had, although it's like a style to wear like baggy shirts and stuff, but she was wearing them because she didn't want people to, to see the way she looked, right? Had this she was self-conscious of, and she was very open about that. And now, things have changed. Now you see her out on the floor. She overcame that, and she's out on the floor in a sports bra, and just being more confident with the body that she has. And Yeah, it is it's a sacrifice, because you're not going to necessarily uh look the way you want, or like the way I guess a woman would want to look when you're at that level of competitiveness in CrossFit, because you are extremely strong. And
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of judgment. I mean, I know even for myself, prior to starting CrossFit, that we had a pretty profound local CrossFitter. She was actually one of my first coaches. And I thought, oh my God, she's so muscular. Like, I don't ever want to be like that
mhm,
big and bulky. But
yeah.
as I started training, as I started putting in the work, as I realized how much work goes into looking that way, my viewpoint of seeing a really female muscular body has changed so much. I have so much appreciation for it and how much sacrifice and how much work goes into that, how much food they have to eat to maintain it, and just all the different things that they have to do to be that elite of an athlete. But this is our world. So it's that's our viewpoint, but that's not the rest of the world's viewpoint. And with how
Yeah.
brutal social media is and all that, I can only imagine the kind of like hate and judgment and stuff that they get thrown at them, especially when
Mhm.
they're not like number one all the time, where they don't care. And they know the amount of sacrifice that they're putting in to be elite in this sport. I can only imagine how that plays on their psyche.
Totally. And then just the programming from society, is like this is the ideal body type for a woman, and the ads of, all these big fashion, companies, like it's essentially, it's an unhealthy look actually. It's actually unhealthy to maintain that. I mean, you would imagine, I mean, I could almost say confidently, yeah, they're not fit to,
Yeah.
these top models are not fit. They're probably eating really low, operating with very low energy, I don't
Yeah.
know. They may be able to run, but they're not strong, that's for
Or do
sure. And
yoga. They could probably do yoga and
they could
Pilates.
probably do yoga and Pilates, but like as far as CrossFit defines fitness, they're not fit. They're
Yeah.
not able to move, loads of weight quickly, over, different periods of time. So it's just a different mindset. I mean, that skinny body is not necessarily a healthy one, and that's
Yeah.
something that gets programmed, from society all the time. And so I think, yeah, like especially some of these young girls, like in the case of Haley Adams, I mean, she was only what, like 19, 20, and it's kind of hard to overcome that programming, especially when you're so young. It's a very difficult thing to switch or turn off. Like, no, I'm doing this for performance. It doesn't matter, necessarily the way I look. It's about performing at the highest level.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But
yeah, it's just,
like, yeah, like you said, it's about programming, right? Like, so I've noticed a big trend, and I know it translates to everything, is, with the pandemic, a lot of people put on a lot of weight because there
mm,
was, no
totally.
activity, bad foods delivered to your home. Like the, especially the United States as a whole, just became very obese. There was like a lot of weight. And then in comes semaglutide and the
Mm,
all the different things that help you lose weight easily. And so what I've noticed now over the last few years is that's become, I mean, and it's great for people who don't have control and they can like start to get control of their diet. But I know even for myself, I took it for a short period of time and it became such a crutch that it almost became even easy for me to not work out because I was just naturally shedding the weight
mm,
by eating crappy or not eating because I didn't feel like it, but I didn't have to work out to get there. And so then, like, what I've noticed how we're looking at society today is there's a lot of skinny fat people, if
yeah,
that's a terminology, where they
it
lost
is.
all the
Yeah.
weight, but they're not working out and they're not fit. So they're not necessarily healthy. They're healthy because they're not carrying around all that extra weight, which is taxing on your system. But at the same time, they're not necessarily engaging in healthy practices because they don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. From what I know about that drug, it's really dangerous because, a lot of the time, yeah, you reverse your hunger, you basically make it so you're not hungry. And it's like this mechanism in your body that switches and you like slow down that, Ghrelin, I think is I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but yeah, ghrelin's like the hunger hormone that gets
Mm.
suppressed somehow. But the problem with it is, you eat very little, and it's likely that you're probably not reaching for the things that you need to be eating. Like, to maintain muscle, you need to have protein. And if you're only so hungry, a lot of the time people are reaching for carbs, and so they lose a lot of muscle mass, and then hence they get that skinny fat thing going on, which is really bad. I saw the other day, there's like a huge lawsuit on semaglutide and all the other things, that's going on right now, and it has to do with people going blind on it.
Oh.
And there's only one place in the world that naturally has that GLP-1 peptide, and it's this lizard. It's a Gila monster lizard, which is
Mm-hmm.
wild, right? So
Yep.
it's in the venom of
And it
this
does cause blindness.
Gila.
That's how they kill
Yeah.
animals is they bite them and then they go blind and they just wait for them to die.
Right. And so that's the only natural place that this peptide
Mm.
exists in high amounts or something like that. So, there's no like, I'm sure like the problem is, this is funny. I'm kind of quoting somebody that was talking about it, but I'm sure if you're overweight, I'm sure the problem isn't that you're lacking Gila monster venom. Like that's not the issue. Like that's not the missing link. Like, oh man, I'm like overweight and I have all these bad habits, and man, I'm really lacking this Gila monster venom. It's like that's not it. And
Yeah.
it's so funny that you bring that up. Like right when the games ended, CrossFit came out with like this new ad campaign, and it's like so cool. And everyone's so fired up on it. And it's just that there's no shortcuts, it's just
Yeah.
hard work,
Yeah.
right? So like that's essentially their new slogan, or like the new motto. And it's true, like that's the truth to being healthy actually, right? And having like good metabolic health, strength, endurance, the body that you want. It doesn't come with shortcuts like semaglutide or GLP-1, whatever, all the different variants of that. It comes with hard work and consistency, and CrossFit's the key. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yep.
wild. Yeah, that stuff's wild.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we'll start to see maybe the pendulum swinging as we start to see the fallout from that over the next few
Oh, yeah.
years. I mean, when I went in for my uh, colonoscopy, which I've been putting off for forever, but you get to an age where they're like, you got to go do it. But I went through a scare because they were like, well, when was the last time you took the GLP-1? And I took it so sporadically and so little. I'm like, I don't know. I think it was like a week ago or so. And they're like, are you positive? And I'm like, well, no, not really. And they're like, and I was like, even if I did, it was just a little. She's like, it doesn't matter because it's now causing complications with anesthesia because people don't think there's food in their stomach or they didn't eat. And then when they get in there, and if there still is food in their stomach, they aspirate. Then they're like, in the hospital with pneumonia, then they die. I mean, this is what she was telling me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die from a colonoscopy. It was super scary. But she said this is now also an odd side effect of what's happening because of them as well, that you would never even consider as being a problem or something that is a side effect, but it's become pretty pronounced. And she even told me, you tell all the people that are taking this stuff that this can happen. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'll make sure I tell everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all these shortcuts,
Right.
there's always a side effect.
Yeah.
And, something that new, it was, and that just shows you like FDA approval and things like that, how, it's not bulletproof, like just because it gets approved doesn't mean that there's not going to be side effects. And yeah, some people are just waking up blind, like straight blind. And
That's crazy.
there's no reversal, and there's these big lawsuits. Um, so yeah, this
Oh,
stuff's dangerous,
okay.
Shortcuts are dangerous. Shortcuts are dangerous.
Well, I'm glad I'm not taking that anymore.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
so
me
there's
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, switching back to the games, you were very excited by the male winner
Oh
because
yeah.
it's been well known, as if we look at the past winners in the male division, there is a specific body type
Oh,
that typically wins, and it's the male CrossFit body type. Fraser,
hmm.
Rich Froning, they all sort of have the same body type, but the guy who won this year had a body type more like you, which is why you're rooting for him and you're
Yeah.
really excited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's always been something. And, I love CrossFit. I love it for myself, but in the sport of it, I've always been a little skeptical about, yeah, these height differences and with some of the movements and, the advantages of being shorter and, having all these repeat winners that are, like Frazier was pretty short. And Froning, I mean, Froning's not super short, but he's pretty short too, you know uh it's always been a little like, that just doesn't seem fair, and me, trying to be competitive in CrossFit. um it kind of gives me it kind of bummed me out, right? And then yeah, so to have somebody like Jason Hopper, who's, he's about 6'2", 6'3", and he's the heaviest games winner of all time. He weighed 230 at the games, he said. So like, and I think some of it has to do with the programming, being a little bit more like well-rounded, you could say. Um, and yeah, that just pumps me up. It doesn't give me an excuse like in a workout, right? Like, oh, that's just a short person's workout. It takes that excuse away and gives me more like confidence in knowing that, the sport and the winners can be somebody like my height, so uh yeah, that it fired me up that he won. I was so I always kind of have been rooting for him, um just because I think he's a good guy. Like he's funny, he talks a lot of smack, and I've watched some of his YouTube videos, and him and his wife, like they do these little YouTube videos. She like films and I think helps edit them, and and it's a really good vibe. He was with HWPO for a while, and then he kind of switched back and started doing his own thing. And I'm sure that was really really hard for him to to peel away from such a big like name like that. But I just think it's awesome that he won. Yeah, I was just people were asking me like, uh, yeah, who do you want to win? And I didn't like really have like it set like in my mind, but it just came out like, oh, yeah, I think I want Hopper to win.
Mm,
And sure enough, it just happened. So,
yep. Yep.
um,
I
yeah,
was rooting for Medeiros.
I know.
I love the mullet. I
Yeah,
think he's a
yeah,
funny guy. So I was definitely rooting for Medeiros. I was a little bummed he came in fourth, but I mean, even
yeah,
still coming in fourth, that's a pretty big feat year after year after year to keep placing.
yeah, yeah. No, he's an amazing athlete. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to repeat. I know he like the year before he like had an injury. I think it was shin splints or something, and which allowed him to not be able to train running that much. Or he like didn't train running at all unless he had to. And so, uh, and the games always have a lot of running. And
Mhm.
especially in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of running, a lot of events with running mixed in there. And, so I always root for him too. But this year I was rooting for Hopper, as you know.
I enjoyed how Justin had his glasses on.
Oh, yeah.
You were
Mhm.
nudging me because I won't wear glasses even though I
Oh, yeah,
probably
yeah.
need them. But even he had his glasses on the pegboard at
Embracing
a
it.
few of the events. Yeah.
Yeah, like the events where, yeah, like pegboard where you like need to see like really good. And
Yeah.
then the events where he has to change his own weights, right? You like
Yeah.
can't mess that up, Like
Yeah.
you have to have those glasses on to see those things, and Yeah, yeah, it's funny. It's funny that I don't know. I don't know if those are the actual reasons, but it makes sense to me, you know?
It totally makes sense because
Yeah.
those were the ones he wore them on. So yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure that's true.
It's
That's
gotta
funny.
be. It's gotta be.
So what would you say was your favorite moment of the event?
I mean, it's got to be the final event, the finish
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
yeah, with Hopper, Sprague, and Medeiros, you know, just lunging to the finish and seeing Sprague, you know, he had to break. And then I was yelling like you know, I looked back at my whoop and my heart rate like jumped so high because I was so in it and I was screaming
Yeah.
at Hopper to break too, because I knew like I was like, dude, there's no way he's gonna be able to hang on.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he broke, but I think he broke like 2 reps too late, and it was like a little hard for him to recover. He had that event. He should have broke like 1 lunge or 2 lunges ahead of Sprague, but I think Medeiros did it unbroken though.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think he was going to win no matter what, but it would have been a little bit more of a dominant finish for Hopper if he would have broke at the right time. But
But at the same time, that's what was fun about it,
I
right?
know,
Because we
I
didn't
know.
know who won until they tallied all the points because he didn't win that event. So it was a big question as to who was going to be the winner, which I thought made it way more exciting.
Yeah, because he when he finished the event, he was like sitting down. Hot Jason Hopper was sitting down, and his like head was down, and like oh, like he thought he blew it,
Yeah.
right? But he didn't. He still had the win, and you know, so you know his reaction. I was like, he should know where he's at, and so I'm like, oh no, he lost it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a close race at the end. How about you? What was your
Um,
favorite event
So I
or
think for
favorite moment?
me, and a timing thing. So the first games I went to, the only games I went to prior to this was 10 years ago in Carson. And that was Brooke Wells coming out event. And that's where I first saw her. I knew who she was. Obviously a
Mhm.
beautiful girl, but fast forward 10 years later,
Oh yeah.
this was her final year. So it was cool for me to be there in her first games and be there in her last games because 10 years is a long time for especially a female athlete to hang on and continue to do this profession year after year. She overcame massive injury that we all
Oh
saw,
yeah.
brutal with her elbow. And some people never come back from that. And so to be able to sort of like grow up with her and watch her through all the years and be part of that sort of with her, it was very cool for me to just, sort of see her first and see her last and feel like I was part of that journey with her as well.
Yeah, that was special. Definitely got a little teary-eyed, you know, just you could just sense all the emotion from all the girls. You know, like that, yeah, what a big accomplishment just to have that many years at the games, that many years of training that hard and, you know, and making it almost all those years. You know, it's yeah, it was touching, you know, and yeah, seeing her like she was like right there, you know, seeing her
And
crying
her
and
sister was right there because,
yeah, yeah,
they're twins. So it felt like
yeah,
we were seeing her everywhere because
yeah,
her twin sister was right there in the same area that we were in.
yeah, yeah. You know, rooting for Brooke and you know, obviously Tia, just because the programming that I do is proven, and so like anyone that's unproven, I'm always rooting for them too. You know what I mean? And that goes with like Jay Crouch and Ricky Garrard. I'm, you know, always rooting for team proven no matter what. But yeah, but Hopper was my guy this year. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
I think we're both hoping that they do have it at Carson again next year because I know there's
Yeah,
been talks of that because that's obviously a lot closer for us. So that would be
totally.
really awesome to
Yeah.
be able to go to.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's Carson or someplace else in California, I know they're trying to keep you know, the games, like the environmental aspects of the games, like they're trying to minimize that just for safety and fairness. You know, those Carson games were like historically so hot. and
Brutally hot. Like I
brutally
was
hot.
dying just as a spectator. I felt so much empathy for these athletes that were out there in that beating sun, because it
Yeah.
seems like that, although it's a harsh element, and to be the fittest in the world, you need to be able to handle whatever is thrown at you. I think sometimes it was a little too harsh, where it wasn't necessarily testing their fitness, more
Yeah.
like their ability to handle hot heat.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed like the format where they had it this year, where it was truly just old school programming, old school
Yeah.
CrossFit, and a true test of just overall physical fitness without all those variables.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the statistics. Nobody dropped out. There was no major injuries. Like
Mhm.
it seemed like they got it right when it came to that, because it stayed competitive the whole time. There weren't people dropping like flies.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for like testing the athletes in a controlled environment, because everyone lives in different places. Some people train in like hot, humid environments, and then other people are, up in Canada or whatever, and it's cold. To put them in like a neutral temperature environment, I think you get the best results. I mean, I've done some brutal workouts outside, and they're it's a different kind of test, and you have to prepare for it. You have to train for it. You have to, some people don't have like they have different complexions. Some people are like brutally affected by the sun, but they may be a great athlete out of the sun. So, like those variables, I think it's cool to remove them and put athletes, yeah, in some like a neutral playing field, yeah, kind of like like any of those outdoor like swim events, like yeah, like the heat, the water temperature, all that stuff. Everyone, I mean, it's fair because everyone's experiencing it, but you know, just reducing those factors is always is I think it's a good thing, and I think CrossFit's going in that direction. So that's why I think they're not going to go to Carson, but I think it'll be in California somewhere,
Mm.
possibly a venue that they can showcase a similar environment to what they did this last year. Where maybe they'll have like an early morning event that's outside, but then most of it'll be indoors, out of that intense heat. So we'll see what they do. It'll
Which is
be
great for all of us, because watching
I
those
know, I
events
know.
and that intensity can be really, really hard for us poor fans just sitting there watching.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah. We
joking.
had
It's
an
way worse for
awesome,
them,
yeah,
but
we
it
had
does suck.
yeah, we had an awesome spectator experience. It was perfect. We
Yeah.
could just really enjoy it. We weren't like lathering up like sunscreened, because we're out in the 100 degrees. So
Yeah.
it was nice
Yeah.
to not have to do that for sure.